Don't blink. History blink. Welcome to our show. Because I'm doing well, because I'm having a wonderful day on this 5th June 2025. We had a really busy day. Went to my mom. Had to fix the phone. We did a lot of cleanup. So it was really nice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about, we're going to do another video. We're going to be talking about why Kenny versus Penny. So, technically speaking, it's a video that I did already 3-4 times on why Kenny Hotz, which is Kenny versus Penny, was one of my role model. But since we're starting to restart recapping the show, I really wanted to once again tell you how much the show meant to me. Since it's pretty late, I had a rough day today. Went with my mom, went to give out some application, then went to see my mom. Then the phone got, again, I'm repeating myself, but the phone broke. I had to fix it, so I don't feel like making a TikTok live, so I'm gonna be doing this. I'm gonna be eating. It's gonna be a mukbang. If you don't know what's a mukbang is a video where people talk and eat. Today we're having New York fries poutine. It is the queso nachos poutine. It is really, really nice. One of my favorites. What more Canadian poutine? You tell me. Maple syrup, possibly. Tim Horton, possibly. We have a little monster because it goes down the hatch. So without further ado, let's go. So first of all, it's a monster, zero sugar, strawberry dream. Actually pretty good. So first of all, let's start with the very beginning. So in the beginning there was a man, in the very beginning, okay, so my story with Kenny versus Penny, it sucks because it's a video that I already did. But I need to make this video at the same time because since we're recapping into it, this is a proper intro to a playlist. I'm going to be recapping from memory. So, recapping from memories, I'm going to go in Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, Season 5, Season 6 from memory. So I didn't watch the show in more than a year. Season 1, I'm going to go a bit more of a rapid bullet fire. So, not super fast, but not super slow. So I mentioned this before. Kenny versus Penny. Yes, I eat poutine with a fork. Do something about it. Kenny versus Penny was not on my radar. So it's a cool story. My mom and my father separated when I was 6. This is how far this goes. When I was 6, so I go to my mom's house, and my mom's house, my mom is bilingual. My father is French Canadian. It's like, okay, well, we need to protect French. We need to protect French. We need to protect French. So there's not so a little ants. Now I'm not collecting ants. However, we have an ant hill. I didn't catch it. We have a ant hill that I would like to do. So I go to my mom's house. My father, again, protecting French. So every single show that we have is French. My mom, bless her heart, most of the show that she has is in English. She does have one channel that I kind of like, that is in French, which is Silly Tune. If you were one of the 90s kid, which is possibly most of the people that grew up watching Kenny vs. Penny, this was something that you watch. So Tilting was super funny. It was a great show, like Squared Carl, Andy Larkin with Liar Liar, what other show? Total Drama Island, which was phenomenal. A bunch of shows, 16, I gotta forget 16. Ben 10, a lot of show that was really cool in the 90s. However, once I reached the age of 12, see, my mom was always, you know how moms are. My mom was always, this is my baby boy. And at that age, I'm different. At that age, I'm listening to Eminem, I'm listening to 8 Mile, I'm a big gangster, so I'm like, okay, well, fuck that. I'm not gonna be watching your kid shit. So I'm looking for something else. The problem that I have is every single channel is in English. Now, it's a good problem, it's a bad problem. So the good problem is, I have a general understanding of English. So even though I don't understand all of what's going on, I can understand the situation. So I found, and that's a funny thing. This is a circumstances. There was no shot for me to watch Trailer Park Boys. There was no shot for me to watch Kenny vs. Penny because by the time that I learned English, which I was 18, was in 2015. yeah, 2000. I'm not good at math, but it was 2020. No. 2013, I was 20. 2013, I'm 20. 2011, I'm 18. So by 2011, Tripper Boy is not going on anymore. Kenny versus Penny, I think, is still going on. So I live far. I usually live in DDO in Lachine, which is the city we're living in right now. That's what you're saying. Look at this, guys. There's a flock of geese coming in. It's actually quite cool. You're gonna see it. Look at this. You saw it, huh? So then we're going all the way to DDO. We're going there every Friday to Sunday. There is a huge amount of traffic. By the time we're there, it is 5 o'clock, 5:30, 5:45. I take a quick shower, I eat, go to watch TV. And I fell upon Trailer Park Boy. Now, I fell in love with Trailer Park Boys. Why? Well, the truth is, I fell in love with Showcase. So, I'm 12 years old, right? And your hormones are starting to really release. Maybe too much information, but I don't give a fuck. I'm not in the best of moods, so fuck it. And your hormones are not in the best of, and you don't know how to control it. And my father, again, I'm spending 12 days at my father's house and 2 days at my mom's house. It's so crazy. I should never tell you the story, but I'm going to tell you, I don't care. I had these small iPod Touch, which were about a bit smaller, a lot thinner. I had a couple in the porn picture on there. It was shitty, but it did the job. At my mom's house, I had Showcase every single Friday. Showcase would go off the air. I will do like a special naughty Friday. Showcase was the shit. So then, they do this thing on Friday, and I watch it. And I'm so bored that I leave it on Showcase. I should hear Power Boys. No. Put it in my shoes. I don't speak English, I don't speak French. Well, I speak French, thank God. I don't speak French. I see Ricky and Julian swearing like fucking truckers. And I see Bubbles with his glasses talking funny. I was intrigued. Long story short, we spent 3 years watching Trailer Park Boys, not understanding one thing. Now, what happened is, Kenny versus Penny comes in. I hated the show. I hated it. The first episode I watched was the first one to get a stain, which sucks. But ultimately speaking, I hated Kenny versus Penny because I would, like I said, every 2 weeks, I would go to my mom's house on Friday, right? So except for the summer, I would only get 2 episodes of Trailer Park Boys. That was my dose for 2 weeks. But then no, because Trailer Park Boys was a 6 to 7. It was one episode at 6 and one episode at 7. But then they changed it. They changed it to Trailer Park Boys 6 to 6:30. And Kenny vs. Penny. which was 7 o'clock. No, 6:30 to 7. So I hate it. And longer story shorter, years passes, and I still love Shredder Park Boys. We end up having, and this was late. I was 18 actually, because I was getting kicked out. We finally get the Wi-Fi. The first thing I do was, and this is, please trust me, this is entirely true. I know it's been almost 14 years, but this is still the case. I still remember. I go in and I watch Trailer Park Boys on YouTube, because back then YouTube didn't have as much copyrights. It was a lot better. So I watched season 1 to 7. When I'm done with Trailer Park Boys, I watch again. Oh shit! It's too hot. It's okay. So we're gonna be good with the temperature. We're not. So I go in once again, and I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. Let's see what we can do. And I watched it. And even though I'm tired of it, I watch it because you have to put yourself in my shoes. I'm a little guy that is grown up in a okay, so this is more so a me problem than a real problem, but it's a me problem. I'm a small guy that grew up in a house where everything was French, right? And it was kind of forced upon me. And learning English was a choice. French was imposed. You're in my house, you don't speak English. It's kind of like a rebellion. My rebellious teenage years was learning English. Like, fuck the system, fuck community, I'm gonna be speaking English. So I watched Trailer Park Boys. Now, what happened, which is the best thing ever, is that my algorithm is tailored for Trailer Park Boys. Then they start showing up Kenny vs. Penny. And I was like, oh, I fucking hate that show. But I give it a shot. And the first episode that I watched at the second one was I think honestly it was the first one to get a boner loses. And I love that show so much because it was crazy. It felt, Kenny vs. Penny felt, we're gonna get more into it, but it felt like reality TV, which was insane. Right? So I watched one episode. The second one that I watched, I don't remember what it was, to be honest. And I watched a third one. I watched a fourth one. I swear to God, I'm watching for the first time Kenny vs. Penny, and actually watching it, and actually understanding it. I think one of the first that I watched was, who can have a goat tied to their leg the longest? Which is crazy. And then I was like, okay, well, I watched the whole thing in one weekend, and I don't remember laughing so hard. I laughed to tears in the episode of Who Can, when Kenny calls Spenny the worm. Kneel before me, worm. But then we have a problem. Why did I like Kenny vs. Penny so much? Now I'm more mature. I'm 32 years old. I grew up out of my Kenny vs. Penny era because I was obsessed with that show. See, Kenny vs. Penny was a life-changing show for me. Trailer Park Boy is one of my favorite shows, but if I'm being completely honest, it's not a life-changing show. It didn't change the way I see things. It didn't change my life. It's a great show. I love it, but it didn't change my life. Kenny vs. Penny completely did. So at first, I hate Kenny. And I think a lot of us hated Kenny in the beginning. He's a cheater, he's a scumbag, but he's funny. So I laughed a couple times, but at the end I'm like, he didn't deserve to win, he cheated. And then I started watching, and the classic thing that it has was Spenny. And Spenny complained, and Spenny gave up. And I'm like, yeah, Kenny lost, but Spenny didn't even compete. Spenny gave up. So even if Kenny didn't win, even if Kenny cheated, he won by default. And I started watching the show, and my mood completely shifted. I, who am supposed to be, I'm a kid. Okay, so that's not true. I'm not a kid. I'm 17 years old. But at heart, I'm a kid. The most outrageous show that I watched was Jersey Shore. You know, I'm still very naive, still very sheltered by parents, very, very sheltered. my mom, she saw me watch Trailer Park Boys, and she was like, this is I can't believe they put these show at these times. So I start watching Kenny vs. Penny religiously, and it's just a show that's different because, technically speaking, okay, so I'm gonna be completely honest. Kenny vs. Penny is 88 episode of completely different. I was super lucky because by the time I watched it, the series was done. There was 88 episode from who can win the most weight to who do black guy like the most part two, which is the last episode of the last season, season 6. I don't remember. I'll be completely honest. I don't remember if the last episode is who do black guys like better. I think I'm 90% sure it is, but I'm 10% thinking that it's the first one to leave the island loses, right? And I got super lucky. I got super lucky because I didn't watch season 1 right away, right? So I'll be completely honest. Kenny. Well, I don't remember perfectly, but I don't think he put this season, or even then, because it wasn't a show with a narrative. Like, even if I watch the show out of order, it doesn't really matter. Oh fuck, I messed up. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this episode. For example, title like who can touch the most breasts. I was like in love with that. Who could smoke more weed when weed was illegal? I was in love with that. But shows, and that was the beauty of Kenny vs. Penny. We'll get into that later on. But shows like the last episode that I watched, and this is a true story. The last episode that I watched was who can keep a no. I don't remember if it was. I don't remember if it was who can keep a chicken coop on their head, who can win a rat race. And two of the best episodes ever. So I go in, and the shift came up, and I'm like, yes, Spenny is. In my life, I never had that. And to this, I have to go bathroom. I'm so sorry. Fuck it. In my life, I never had that. I still never had this. So I'm rooting for Spenny because it's the person to root for. But then I end up rooting for Kenny because I'm like, for the first time in my life, I'm like, I don't really care about who's righteous here. I just want to be entertained. And Kenny is entertained. And the thing is with Kenny was a very special guy, very special character. Kenny was the guy that you're supposed to hate, but was so charismatic that it didn't matter. Kenny was the guy that was okay, we're good for the last card. Kenny was supposed to be the guy that you liked the least. However, he was the most entertaining. You came back to watch a show, and before you realized that you were watching it for Kenny. And I'm like, holy shit! I am listening to it for Kenny. Is that normal? Oops. Now, ultimately, yes, this is super normal. I'm playing the tower on both. So I'm possibly going to be doing Alfred Gen, maybe. I would do Plasma Cannon. Like, Plasma Cannon sucks because it doesn't touch Elite. Let's do Recovery Package Chance. Now at the bathroom. See, it was the first time where I stood for the bad guy. Kenny didn't feel like a bad guy. Spenny did. And this was the weirdest thing. You see, Kenny vs. Penny is this magical show. This absolute magical show. Where you think you're going for the competition, but you're going for the people. Because at the end, it's two people competing. One of my favorite episodes is Who is the Better Soldier? And just the way Kenny acts in this one, it's crazy, but it gets into Spenny's head. Or Who can stay obese the longest? Again, it's a mind trick. And I learned so much from Kenny. See, and I'm not playing victim. I was the smallest kid in my class. I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the most athletic. I was able to talk, I had a good mouth. But that was pretty much all I had for me. See, Kenny, this is crazy. I was living in this is really bad. I was living in a house where it was too strict. and I was going to school, and I was not really picked on, but not really respected. I was fuck. Um, I was a nice kid. I was the quiet. Oh well, not really, but I was the calm kid. Oh well, how can I not be calm? I was fucking hooked on Concerta and Ritalin and ADHD medication. I was a kid where I was nice and I knew everybody. I knew everybody. I would come into the corridor and I would know your name. People came up to me and say, "Hey, how are you?" I was popular as fuck. But those weren't my friend. They were just people that wanted to be seen with me, or people that were just like, "Hey, I know this fucking guy. This guy is super popular and I know him." But nobody was my friend, right? And then with my parents, they were too strict. My mom was super, super, super mama bear, and oh, I need to take care of you. My mom, she wanted to feed me until I was like 10, 12, which is crazy. My father, who was very strict, is like, my father is an extreme model of weird parenting. My father is the type. My father was very weird growing up, and he's the one that raised me. 12 days out of 14. My father is the classical sense, is the classical guy that's gonna say, "Hey, you fell. Here's why you fell. This is how you don't fail, right? You fall on the ground. Oh, you fell. Get back up, right?" And it was like, and he's pushing you, and he's pushing you until you're up. But he's pushing you until you're up, and he's pushing you so much that you don't want to get up because you're like, "What the fuck is going on? Leave me alone," right? And my father also weird because he would catch me doing some things. For example, oh, I ate something I wasn't supposed to. I ate sugar, and they say, "This is how I caught you." So it was constant surveillance and never trust. He used to constantly check my room. I remember I was, oh man, this is a bad story. I was 18. I so I lived at my, okay, so at 18 my mom kicked me out. I lived at my mom for 4 months. She kicked me out. So I go back to my father's house. And at my father's house, at my mom's house, I spent 4 months eating whatever I wanted. Junk food, junk food, junk food, junk food, junk food. I gained a lot of weight because my mom, she's more easygoing than my father. And as long as I'm happy, she doesn't care if I'm fat. So then I come in, and my father's like, "Okay, well, you need to find a job," right? And I go in, and people, when I'm finding a job, they say, "Hey, you need to lose some weight." So long story short, I spent months in my apartment losing some weight. I don't have. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. That period of time, those 7 months, I lost 50 something pound. I was listening to YouTube. When I talk about when I watch Kenny versus Penny, it was during those 7 months, and I was just losing the weight. And I had a party that one night out of, so I spent 7 months in a room working out. I had a party one night out of 210 days, and um, they went to my room and they went to make sure that I didn't hide shit. The house I grew up in. So I watched the Trailer Park Boys because the Trailer Park Boys didn't take shit from anybody and were able to say fuck off, right? And I think I found a charm in the boys telling people to fuck off and being kind of like their own bosses and having their own rule and marching to the beat of their own drum, if I had to recap it. So I fell in love with that. Kenny, in my mind, was the best thing because Kenny wasn't the strongest. Kenny wasn't the smartest, wasn't the tallest, wasn't the strongest. He had a brain and he was deviant. Kenny was the first person to teach me one of the best lessons in life, and this lesson in life still holds clear to this day. It's not about. I wanna verbalize it my way, but I also want to verbalize it in Kenny's way. Um, the important lesson that Kenny taught me. That's actually a really good question. If I had to only take one, that's a really good question. Holy shit! I would say be yourself, and fuck people who don't like who you are. Kenny became a god for me. And I know this is weird to say, but he became a god to me. Kenny was my role model. I started being deviant. I started lying a lot. I started manipulating a lot. And ultimately speaking, those years when I was manipulating a lot, I wasn't hurting people. I was doing it just for entertainment. I was telling white lies. I was manipulating into saying, like, for example, like, um for example, those two people at work, they fought, and I was like, oh, you should confront her. You shouldn't allow people to talk to you like that. So I started manipulating people, and then I was playing with people's emotion, right? And again, most people were not smart enough to understand what I was doing, but some people caught on. But I guess I did it for a while, and it turned out really bad. But Kenny was a literal god. He came out with Triumph of the Will, which was phenomenal. He came up with his podcast. I would listen to religiously. I'm telling you, I was listening if there was 24 hours a day, and I was being awake for 15, with either Kenny Haas or Kenny versus Spenny. And it was always about getting my way. And it was about getting my way, but being conscious of, like, for example, right? For example, uh, okay, that's a really good example actually. I was living at my dad's house, and I have a stepmom. And me and my stepmom, we never got along. So the problem with my stepmom was she didn't have authority because she wasn't my mom, so I never gave her authority. So the second that she saw that she didn't have authority, instead of trying to maintain or to establish, hey, I'm your fucking boss, I'm in charge here, don't fucking talk back to me. She was going to my father's house. She was going to my father and say, hey, he did this. So it was so fucking funny. My stepmom, and bless her, she didn't have a lot of choice. I was a shit. I was a little shit. I wasn't a shit in the sense of I was rebellious. I wasn't a shit in the sense of I was a bad kid. But I was a shit in the sense of I did whatever I want. I would lie to your face and say, yes, I understand. I would do the same thing right after. So my father, and it was so pathetic because that's the reason. The reason why I didn't get along with my stepmom was because of this exact thing. She would finish work at 3:30. I would finish school at 4. My father would finish work at 5 o'clock. So then I would come in, and for example, right? For example, I didn't do the dishes, or for example, the house a mess, or for example, I ate something I wasn't supposed to. Why I keep bringing this example? Well, because I had ADHD, so I wasn't allowed sugar. That's simply it. And then my stepmom, she wouldn't say nothing. She wouldn't even say hi to me. Right? There's time where I was locked outside my door. I didn't have my key, or the door was broken. It happened a couple of times. I would ring the door, and she wouldn't let me in. She was a bitch, but I was addicted too, so it's okay. So I come in, she would give me shit, and then when my father come in, he would say salut Stéphane, because my real name is Stéphane. Salut Stéphane, ça va bien? Oui papa, toi? Oui, ça va bien. He said, what did you learn in school? We had a good conversation.